Hi. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Lovely to be back here with you for the live Q&A. So we've been doing these live Q&As now for several weeks on Wednesday mornings. For those of you that are here in the Pacific time zone, it's 11 a.m. where I am. And I have some news to share with all of you. First of all, I want to say that I'm going to take a little pause with these lives and come back better than ever on August 23rd. So we're going to take a pause for 4 weeks starting next Wednesday. But there's going to be some beautiful new offerings coming when we start up again in mid to late August. And part of the reason I'm doing this is because I'm actually going on a bit of a summer travel, camping, visiting friends for a month. I'm still going to be working and doing some other recordings, but the lives are just too challenging to fit into that time spot. So thank you for being on here with me. I'm looking so forward to your questions today. And also, I wanted to mention that if you want to support me in my work, a way to do that here in these live streams is to purchase stickers and super chats. So the super chats allow your comments or your questions to be highlighted, and therefore it's easier for my moderator, Sue, morning Sue, to notice your question, bring it to my attention, and we're more likely to get to it. So if you can navigate to the bottom of your screen, there should be a place there where you can purchase stickers and super chats. And I encourage you to do that today if you feel so inspired. I am going to be taking questions, mostly questions that relate to what's going on in the world right now, things that are applicable to most of us. I will take a few personal questions as well, especially if time permits that. So I look forward to hearing where you want to start, but I want to say one more thing in the way of housekeeping before we begin, and that is that I want to invite you to watch my 100th Soul Sampler celebration is coming up on Sunday, July 23rd. It's not going to be live. It's going to be pre-recorded, but just a heads up, there will be some special offerings on that presentation, including a draw for free readings, ancestral healings with me. So all of this is to celebrate with you, my wonderful followers and viewers, that this has been now 100 weeks of doing the Sunday Soul Samplers. And I'm just so excited to turn this corner with all of you and to look forward to the next 100 Soul Samplers. I'm also going to be featuring new backdrops. I'm going to be featuring artists and offering some of that art for sale. So there's a lot to look forward to in how I'm transforming my channel, including inviting all of you to migrate over to Rumble with me so that we can talk more openly about the topics that really matter to us. So there's going to be an incentive when you watch that 100th Soul Sampler. There's going to be an incentive for you to come over to Rumble and subscribe to my channel there. And so join in for that and you'll learn more about what that incentive is. Yay, good morning. Hello, Frederick, Ricky. Hello, WK from Poland. Hi. Hi, Danya. Sue, lovely to see all of you. Yeah, so let's start with Sue's question. As the veil is being lifted, will all those who are out of integrity be revealed? Whew, great question. I just got the chills when I said that. Um, Very interesting. I think it could be interesting as well, Sue, to inquire about how is that revelation going to take place. So let's have a look at that. Tilt the screen a wee bit here. So as the veil is lifting, those who are out of integrity, well, let's say, those who are quite a bit out of integrity, because what I'm hearing the guides say is, who cast the first stone? Obviously, we all have parts of us that are out of integrity at different times. But what I'm hearing you say, Sue, is will there be a point, and how will it be revealed? And how is the revelation of some of the people and their actions going to support our healing and our transformation? That's what I want to inquire about. So here we are asking this question. We're showing up as the Queen of Pentacles, meaning in a way, I almost want to say it's not irrelevant, but we're beyond needing a certain kind of we're beyond needing a certain kind of reference point or reflection on this. It's almost like we're going to, interesting. We're going to be seeing more and more of a dividing stream, two streams of people, and you'll know which stream you're in based on people's accountability. It's interesting because what I'm actually seeing with this law and order authority card is just like so many civilizations and so many corporations and so many constructs that are like military industrial complex type of constructs. There's a point where they've kind of lost, well, they've certainly lost the plot. They've lost their integrity. And in some way, they start to lose their hold on the population. We are already seeing this happening. So what we see is they're losing the public opinion is swaying pretty radically, I think. And they're having to up their tactics in order to keep a hold on the population so that we don't go into some kind of massive revolt. But that's a very delicate balance for them right now, because if they overplay their hand, they're going to incite more rebellion. So there's something here about the timing of these revelations coming out, because we want it to happen fast enough. Yeah, interesting. They're saying to focus on how you want to see this segue. We've got a lot of power. Those of us who are awake right now, we have a lot of power on how we want to see this transition segue. And if we were to just open the can of worms for the general population and they really got the big download, I believe there would be quite a lot of mass pandemonium, and that actually would go against us. It would not go in our favor, because it would create such overall instability that it would create the invitation for the strong arm military response to come in and quell that revolution. Does that make sense? It's like if it goes too fast, then the revolution is uncontrollable, and then that power dominant model those players come in with their heavy-handed tactics and they can justify it under that climate. So it's actually, they want us to get freaked out, take to the streets so that they can then justify these extreme measures like we saw here in Canada. So yeah, we want to think about how this is going to happen. We're part of a revolution, basically. And the best revolution is where there isn't a big hoopla made of bringing the perpetrators to justice. It's almost like leave justice in the hands of the Almighty, as they used to say. Karmic justice, leave that to the Creator and get on with the joy of making them redundant. That is the justice right there. The justice is that they've lost votes, they've lost confidence, they've lost interest. I find it fascinating. Now it's just amazing to watch things like, you see the newsreels coming out from, like, say, CBC or the mainstream media places, and then you see the alternative news stuff, and you see, some of these incredible speakers, social influences that are speaking the truth, and they're actually getting more views on the internet than the mainstream media channels are even getting at this point. So it's like we are making their agenda redundant and irrelevant. And that is how we're winning the revolution. This does not mean that we get lazy, okay? We've got to know where we're going, why we're going there, how we're going, with who we're going. But I want to say, this is that old statement, if I can't dance in the revolution, I don't want to join. We're going to be dancing in the revolution. We want to focus on making this really smart, not hard. Does that make sense? We're going smart, not challenging. And we're going to leave, to some extent, there is going to be, reparations will be made. There will be accountability that streams in over weeks, months, years, and decades. But right now, the important business is to focus on how we get ourselves off of the system, get unplugged, get sovereign, and enjoy the process. Okay. This is going to be remember I talked about the two streams. We're going to know that we're with our kind of people because they will be enjoying creating change and new paradigm opportunities. They're not going to be less and less. We're going to be doing that from a place of fear and more, or reaction to these, these big plays by the dark controlling forces. More and more, you're going to notice, oh yeah, those are my kind of people, because they don't have their head in the sand, but they are busy creating a new reality, and they don't have time to even give these old characters much attention. They're becoming redundant. So, hope that answers your question, Sue. Okay. Question. Claudia, thank you. What will happen with the US dollar and the financial system? Will it crash? What time frame? And how should we protect our families? Well, I've answered this question a lot over the months and years, but I always want to look and see where we're at right now. So let's have a look together. And I'm smiling because what I've seen over time, oh, look at that. Yeah, the Star and the King of Wands. Looks pretty good to me. What I've seen over time is that Well, I'm not going to say yet. Hold on. I want to wait and see what the cards say right now. What's that transition going to look like? How do you protect yourself? Yeah, interesting choice of words. I want to say, how do you empower yourself to make the most out of the crumbling of a redundant old system that we're better off without? So, how do you empower yourself? Let's have a look at that. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. Look at that, Ace of Wands. We're ahead of the pack. We're off to the races. All right. How do we empower ourselves? Well, we get out of our own way, and we've got to do some grieving and letting go of our attachment to the old system. It's like, that's easy to say, right? It's easy for me to spout that off here. But gosh, have you noticed, like, I always think it's so funny to think back to when I grew up and I was a teenager in the 70s. And, you go out for the weekend, but you had to go to the bank to get your money out on Friday night. And if you didn't have money left over Saturday night, you were borrowing because there was nothing open till like Monday morning or Tuesday morning or something, right? And it's like how we've gotten now. I get frustrated if the tap on my card isn't working. I'm like, oh my God, how inconvenient, right? It's like we've grown dependencies. We've let ourselves grow dependency. Okay. And it's not a shaming thing. These have been fascinating technologies. They've made supposedly our life easier, but then again, maybe not. Like, has it been good for us to be able to purchase with a tap, with a click, with a, you know, click on the mouse, a click, a tap, a whatever, right? It's like, so something is going to need to be grieved, and we're going to need to really acknowledge how pinned we are. Pinned, pardon the pun, PIN, right? It's like, what? We can't move our money around without the PIN number, without the this, without the that, da 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 da, right? It used to be you go in the bank, you sign your name. So we're looking at a time where we're starting with ourselves. We're starting in our own minds. You know, I'm just as bad as the worst of you in some ways, I'm sure, because I've said for years, I'm going to go to cash only. I'm going to go to cash only. I'm going to go to cash only. And then I'm like, oh no, I didn't take enough cash out. Shoot. So where I'm going with this is we got to start with ourselves, weaning ourselves off of these systems. And at the same time, there's going to be just a plethora of new ways of working with finances, of alternative transitional currencies. Okay, so we've had our eyes open. Look at that, King of Swords in the past. We've learned a lot in these last few years. We've learned about how economics can be corrupted. We've learned about, not to trust centralized power and authority, centralized banking systems, centralized, the big five and all that kind of stuff. Like, we've really understand more than ever that there's a lot of risk to becoming dependent on these systems. So now, woo-wee. So how do you get independent of these systems? I want to say my effort to answer your question is in a way roundabout at the moment, but we're going to get to it at the very end, because it's almost like that worry about protection versus empowerment to make changes that are very savvy. Okay. There are a lot of very savvy systems coming down the pipe, people. A lot. There are, you name it. There's all different types of currencies, cryptocurrencies. There's, different countries' money, different currencies that are going to increase in value. There's our investment in silver and gold. That's just actual currency. Then there's going to be all kinds of new trading systems, new ways of, the old school barter. There's going to be 10 different versions of upgrades on how to do that with the technology we have. There's going to be cooperatives and collectives forming, buying clubs. I mean, it just goes on and on. And this is some of the stuff that I want to be educating all of you about in the upcoming weeks and months. So we're already, those of you watching who are in this mindset, we're already being streamlined into some really exciting new ways of working with finances. And that's only going to get better. The strategy card, the mental strategy. So we're walking away from letting someone else control the way we spend our resources, the way we earn, and the way we spend. Okay. This is shifting, and we're getting new strategies, new platforms. And honestly, I just am seeing, the judgment card. This is going to literally be the big crash is actually an explosion, is what they're saying, of new ways of doing business, new ways of approaching finances, security, resources, stability, exchange, all of that. And so we're going to see this explosion while the implosion is happening to the old system, kind of in tandem. But we're not going to be left completely high and dry, because I get that there's a lot of little implosions in the old system. This is what I've been shown for months and years now. Yeah, it's just slow and steady as we go. There will be so much information that we have access to about new ways of creating security, of creating sovereignty. Yeah, so this is a deeply psychological game of warfare on holding you hostage around feeling that there is going to be another crash, right? Like, I want to say that that narrative, another Black Tuesday or whatever, that narrative is, unfortunately, I believe, infiltrated some of our perspectives. And as I say, unfortunately, because it feels like it's not destined to go down like that this time. It's not destined. We are in a completely different place. And that doesn't mean, I just keep hearing the word redundancy. Like, if you've built a life that is entirely dependent on that system for your pensions, for your 401k, for your, whatever it is that you have, your stocks, your this, your that, and other things. Well, this is a great time to begin to look at ways to transition around that. I was gifted something this last week, and I will be sharing that with my audience in the next month or so, after I want to take the course and really learn it and decide if this is something really valuable to share with you. But it is a lot about moving money around different countries on the planet, all sorts of strategies. I'm passionate about this stuff, and I'm going to share it with you as I learn more. So instead of seeing a crash, an imminent crash, I want you to be empowered, to be invited through curiosity and enthusiasm to get into maneuvering strategically. It's kind of like playing a strategy game, one of those strategy board games, and you've had your strategy and it's worked really well. And then all of a sudden, there's a whole new energy in the game, and your strategy is no longer going to work. You're going to need to shift strategies. And if you're a good strategist, you're going to take that in stride. You're going to already be going, okay, yep, cancel, move, shift. Look, the same strengths that you had with the old strategy are going to serve you now. And if you didn't have strengths with the old strategy, you have an opportunity to reinvest, reinsert yourself into a personal economy, a global economy that's going to be so much more diverse and healthy. That's what I'm seeing. That I see diverse options. It's not just a central banking system or 5 digital currencies or whatever. I see a lot of synchronistic, complementary strategies that we're going to be learning about. Okay. Are we seeing original John Legend? Okay. I'm not really sure about your question, fertility to delivery, but I will just pull a single card as a yes or no answer, and let's have a look. And are the 2 babies they just had really theirs? Are the kids in good hands? Okay. Yes, I know what you're speaking of. So, are we seeing the original? Shuffling. This is a very strong card. 10 of Pentacles. This is a card related to family, community, tribe, being part of a group, a long-standing tradition, sustainable, well-resourced. Yeah, top and bottom card I'm just looking at here quickly. Yeah, this looks good. So I would say yes. And the kids are in good hands. Interesting. Okay. Let's see. In a past life regression session, the client saw the whole world in protest. The world was in protest over the little ones. That was the line for the whole world. They are healed from the love from the people. This was 4 years ago. Is that still accurate? I love what you're saying about bringing the world together. I see that with that 10 of Pentacles. I'm going to pull another card on it. Beautiful emotional healing, solidarity among people, being willing to look at things that are, I want to say, deeply unsettling or scary, but having the emotional resilience and courage and energy moving in a good direction. So there is a huge clearing happening here. And there is a maturity around what we do with information. What we do with information is what the guides are saying. So we can look at information and, there's a difference between looking away or looking towards things, looking beneath the surface, but metabolizing the grief of what you see and not turning it into rage, reaction, and revenge. Okay. So we become in similar resonance with perpetrators when we turn into the same energy that they frequency that they resonate with as an act of revenge. Revenge is a very powerful, I want to say, soul development work. To be able to take grief and metabolize it on a very, very deep level and turn it into wisdom, turn it into a kind of compassion that is not about relinquishing boundaries or turning away, but it's about believing that all souls are redeemable. And yeah, it has to do with where we go in our feelings and our energy. So, hi, Vicky. I am doing personal questions, general questions taken first. Yeah, we the people can't fight evil with evil. It doesn't work like that. Evil is better at evil than good. So it's a very, very tricky personal fine line for all of us to walk, because sometimes fighting is the way to respond, the best way to respond in a moment. But it's almost like, what is motivating our fighting? If our fighting is motivated by revenge and a desire to get revenge, to take justice into our own hands and again operate as individual egos doing kind of like the job of the creator. So if we are fighting to I want to say defend, protect what we love, that is different than fighting for revenge. So, but it's a fine line, right? So we all have to get inside ourselves and find that line. I feel like if you go into desire for revenge, you're stepping over the line. But if you go into calling something clearly what it is and speaking your true assessment of it, defending yourself from its effects, that is not revenge. That is a good, honorable fight. Will there still be a big depopulation on a global level? Okay. Thank you for your question, Carmen. Let's have a look at that. And I actually haven't looked at this question for quite a while, so I'm very interested. I'm going to tilt the screen here a little bit. I'm very interested to see what our guides as a group want to share with us about this at this moment. So here's us, 3 of Pentacles. Again, this is a lot. The 3s are very dynamic. They're very creative. 3 of Pentacles is the entrepreneur card, but you could look at it as we are taking up the cause of becoming self-sufficient, self-sustaining. Okay, so this doesn't mean going back to the Stone Age. This means, again, working smarter, not harder. This means working with what's available, but really like disconnecting ourselves from, um, yeah, I heard it being described as, nanny nations or nanny civilizations that just basically care for their citizens but make them so weak and dependent that they can't do anything for themselves. So right off the bat, this is saying there's a percentage of us, and I'm getting really, it's around 30% of the global population right now that's ready to step in and become more self-sufficient, autonomous, sovereign, um, disconnecting from these very disempowering nations and civilizations that want us to become totally dependent. And there's an 80%. Wow, this is interesting. Um, Holy, I got to lift the screen for a minute and share with you what I'm hearing and seeing. They're saying we're having a tidal wave of emotional despondency. Whew. Wow. So it's kind of like the ride is spinning very fast, and a lot of people are nauseous and they want to get off the ride. And this tidal wave is what I want to call a mental health crisis on the planet. And it makes sense, doesn't it? It's like, if your options are so limited and you don't see a way that you can become autonomous and independent from these controlling systems, it does start to feel like you're on this ride that's very disorienting and troublesome. And so this is the tidal wave we're in right now. And what I'm hearing about that is that people make decisions from this place. They've got to decide, are they going to come over to the 30%? So it's interesting because I got 80% here and 30 over here. That doesn't go together, right? So that means about maybe 10% of our 30 are pretty overwhelmed and kind of, in emotional despondency. And maybe about 10 or 20% of our 80 are kind of getting ready to establish the new paradigm, the new earth, all that stuff. But this is what's going on. They're saying it's like we are all overwhelmed. We're all feeling this, okay? And so how that relates to the question about depopulation is we're a lot more susceptible to fall in lockstep with depopulation agendas when we are literally off the ride going, I'm going to get sick. Get me off this ride. I don't want to be on it. Okay. So it is, first off, it's an internal crises. And this also ties into timelines and ascension symptoms and everything. It's like, it's going to take a certain kind of strong spirit to navigate through these times and see, like, feel the energy coalescing around them as opposed to just being so spun out. We're all feeling this. If you're experiencing this is not saying that you're going to take an option to leave. But what I'm saying is that's the first order of business, is to look at how empowered you're feeling. Where are you putting your attention? Past. This is the catharsis. This is the catalyst card. So there's all kinds of catalysts happening on the planet right now. There's all kinds of activation happening. It's kind of like, when a body is fighting, let's say from an illness, let's say something, even a disease like a cancer or something. It gets to a point where, the body itself is struggling so much that it needs a lot of support to get the upper hand on this energy. So there's And, the stimulus of what happens when we're really sick is an invitation to strengthen. So what's going on with these agendas is that they're stimulating our evolutionary growth and the strength of our character, our the quality of our human dignity is being revived. We've gone through millennia of being asleep, going through the dark age of the Kali Yuga cycle. We're being revived right now, and it's kind of like what they're showing me is, like a kind of recitation process is happening. And so a lot of the things that we see as being challenges to our survival are actually there to try to wake us up and revive us to becoming self-sufficient, empowered, independent, sovereign consciousness, human consciousness here on this planet. Okay, so again, a lot of this has to do with the end of the old system, the end, letting go of the way things have been. There's also a lot of unpacking of the trauma that we've suffered. Look at the trauma, bodies in trauma. So you're asking about, depopulation agendas. And what I'm seeing is that actually a bigger overview of the whole experience of what is happening, the role that these, dark force agendas play in being a catalyst to wake us up. So it's beyond those agendas, it's into this. Do you see this as an opportunity to awaken and take up the call that you obviously came here? Like all of you watching are in this 30%. So you came here to be a strong vessel of change through these extraordinary and challenging times. And one of the first orders of business is to clear the past karma, the traumas, the old programming. And when we do that, these agendas have less and less hold on us. So, and then there's an influx of new avatar type beings coming. So, I'm going to look, see, yeah, disappointment. It's almost like, can we soften a little bit in ourselves and say, we're not victims. Something profound is happening here. And if people go, it's in alignment with the greater evolution. I have to say, among my friends, I have groups of friends that I've known for decades, and many of them are awake people, and we have been for a long, long time. And I remember having these conversations with them like 10, 15, maybe even 20 years ago now, where we were talking about like seeing the times ahead as we are in right now and saying, okay, like, what role will I play in the unfolding of all of this? Because I clearly, can't fix it all. It can't be fixed by one being in one lifetime. But what role do I want to play? And what do I want to focus on? Do I want to focus on just living through this? Or do I want to focus on playing the role that I came here to play? And so many of us, it wasn't easy in the beginning. We were like, no way, man, we want to live through this, we're going to be like up in the mountains with our prepper caves. And we started all that stuff. Like, I mean, it was, there's nothing wrong with that. It was just there. We all got to a point where we were like, you know what? If I'm meant to come through this, then I will. And if I'm not, that's okay too, because I'm going to play my part. I'm going to play my part and make a difference. Make this count. Make this life count for something in the big scheme of things. So, um, yeah, we could be mad or we can fall in love. Look at this. This is so wild. This is like anger and love. So we can be mad with the whole like, what are they doing to us? And oh my gosh, I mean, I get mad. I still get mad. Definitely don't don't kid yourself. I get really mad still. And I get feisty about it and afraid, just like everybody. But when I come back into my heart, I'm like, I'm just in love with this life. I'm in love with this journey. I'm in love with the extraordinary times we're in. I'm in love with all of you that are like doing your part and all the things that we can potentially do together, the things that we will never do together, but want to. Like, I just come back to a loving place in myself and I'm like, it's going to be the best it can be, and I'm going to do the best I can to make it the best it can be. And here's the kind of boost on that trajectory is usually if you can actually hold that for a little while, miracles start happening. And then you're like, I'm getting the chills as I'm saying it. And then you're like, oh my gosh, like I surrendered and went, you know what? If I have to go to do my part to make this count, how, so be it. Like I surrender to the greater evolutionary cycle that I'm in and the greater potential of all of us. And then many miracles start happening. So, and we feel better. We feel better. Okay. We feel not alone. We feel not alone. So there's something very lonely feeling about the question of this agenda around population control. There's something lonely in that. There's something like, we're going to be left alone. We're going to be abandoned. And I want to invite you all to be a little curious about that. What is the loneliness in that? What's the loneliness that makes us want to run for the hills or like run to another dimension or galaxy? There's some kind of loneliness at the root of that where we just feel like already abandoned. It's like if this was a beautiful world, then we wouldn't be fighting people that were trying to take us out. But maybe it's a deeper mystery than all of that. And what makes it a beautiful world is that there's beautiful people like us who are at the front of that line. And that's very powerful. And it's not lonely. I mean, look at you all. When if you go back to the beginning of this recording, when I turned the live on, I was like, oh my gosh, I look like I'm half asleep and half dead. And I feel like that sometimes these days too, and it's like, by the time I've tuned in with all of your beautiful energy, I am transformed. Like you can see it, you can feel it in my energy field. Like, I hope you all are too. I really pray you all are as well, because this is not me. This is you. This is us. The us makes this kind of message possible. Okay. How long is the movie gonna go on for? Oh, Carmen, thank you. Yeah. Okay. How long is the movie going to go on for? Well, we have definitely grown to be a population of movie lovers, haven't we? I mean, there's some kind of irony in that to me. Oh gosh, I can't believe our guides are using this as a metaphor, but apparently they are. I apologize in advance. They're saying, I don't know about you. I gotta put the screen up. They're saying, so many of us have grown to love television series, or whatever it is, Netflix Prime Video series, as opposed to movies, because it's really nice to kind of follow along with stories, or series where there's kind of some kind of evolution happening. And so movies, there's something about the analogy of a movie versus a series, and there's a clue in that. The clue that they're showing me is a series has several chapters and it can go on for a long time. Unlike a movie that is like one and done. So I've shuffled, do a little more of that. The series, how long is the series? Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be laughing, but it's so funny that someone's guides here are pointing this out, that we can talk about it like a series, and that will help us. So let's see. Here's us. Ooh, look at that. The sun on the bottom, the best card on the bottom. Yoo-hoo. Oh, the catalyst again. We just talked about this card. That's us. Okay, so we are definitely, they're saying we're just like these little sticks of dynamite now, running around with our news, our intel, they're just showing me like these catalysts popping like popcorn all over the planet. Oh, wow. There's that card again. You saw me, I shuffled. There's that card again. 10 of Swords. Surrender. Okay, so I want to say, they're saying the movie is over, the series is starting. And let's now look at what that is about. The moon in the past. We needed a movie initially because it was dark. And we all needed to be kind of like taken into the theater. Now we need something that's going to move with us, grow with us, keep moving us all along down this evolutionary path. And it's going to, this is such a sweet, child, innocent, lovely card. So there's something about the children. It begins we notice the movie ending as the children's empowerment begins. We also see the series. Season 1 is about healing the children. Season 1 is about addressing care of the children. And so it's almost like, there's the feature film, and then now we're in this series, which is kind of like setting the new tone. And we're also going to notice that people, especially our people, are, I want to say, like, just overall in a better mood about it. Like we're telling a new story for the future. So interesting. This is what your guides are saying is, the movie's over when you can tell your 5-year-old niece, nephew, grandchild, son or daughter that the new version, you can tell them the new version story and feel confident and safe to tell them. And maybe even a bit of the transition story. So it's like, the movie was restricted movie, But the series is PG, not even PG. It's general. It's for children, actually for children, not like the ridiculous stuff that's now classified as PG. And I'm really fiercely angry about that stuff. But that's another topic. So we're going to know that things are shifting because the version of reality that we can share with the children is feeling so much more sane and safe. So focus on sanity, focus on safety, focus on the children, focus on the rebuild. Again, the old is becoming redundant. It's becoming redundant. So focus on the new. So here we are, still armored up, still moving fast through this phase. This is interesting. The Chariot is a number 7. We're in the 7th month right now. There is the 7 is a very spiritual number. So the guides are saying it's most important that we are creating the future for the next 7 generations. And that future, oh, there's the child on the bottom. See that? Look at that. Yeah. So interesting, the whole movie series thing, isn't it? And that we've wanted it just to come to an end so that we can get back to normal. But I believe that we're kind of at this place now where we're like, oh my gosh, what's available to us is more than we can possibly imagine in terms of the brightest future for the 7th generation from here, from where we are. And that is the ancient, I want to say one of the healthy aspects of the ancient indigenous traditions of the world is that they lived in accordance with what their life actions were going to impact 7 generations from them. And so, how do you hold yourself together emotionally through this? How do you not feel, again, abandoned, alone, lonely, disappointed that you maybe spent a lot of years of your life invested in a system that has now been proven to be really dark and corrupt? This is going to be for each of us a healing journey, but please apply liberal compassion, not liberal, liberal amounts of compassion to yourself and empathy for this extraordinary transitional phase that we're on. The Death card is the transition. Oh yeah, transition towards loving energy. So again, this is kind of similar to what we saw in that last question. Thank you. My husband is from Canada too. Some of the most wholesome and beautiful people I've met. Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. Moon Garden. This is why I believe kins domains are so important. It's for the children. Yes. How impactful was Sound of Freedom? Are some people triggered into revenge? What about righteous anger? Or is it mostly shedding light? It's important to witness. Okay, perfect. Thank you for that question, Sue. Yeah, let's have a look at it. And, I got a chill from your question. That's a good sign. I want to say that what I'm getting before I even look at the cards is it's all relevant and important. All of it. the protests, the righteous indignation and anger and desire for revenge. Um, we've got to go through these stages. It's like the grieving cycle, okay? Like to grow, to heal trauma, the trauma has to come up. It has to come up, just like when you're nauseous, you got to get it out of yourself. So we're in that phase. And you know, these presentations, as you're mentioning, they bring stuff to the surface. But there's a little bit of this here of not, kind of preaching to the converted. And there certainly is a message that many of us have held onto this for a long time, and we need to start to move on to something else and let the newcomers hold it for a while, is what I'm hearing. Yeah. It's like you're not, gosh, they just keep coming through this particular live for all of us saying we're all acting like we're the only one that's going to solve this. And you got to take a rest. You got to take a rest, take a breather. So your film that you were speaking of, Sound of Freedom. Of course it's going to trigger revenge, and a little bit of that is necessary. It's part of what needs to happen to get all this out. People need to be, able to feel their feelings and take some action on it. When you work with grief, revenge is a very powerful aspect at the beginning of grief. And I remember one of my greatest spiritual mentors, Martin Pertel, who I've spoken about before. He's written books on grief. And he talks about the process of revenge, that in the beginning, when someone is hurting, and we're talking about people who've been through wars or, on warring sides of different gang warfare and stuff like that. And that's a big aspect of what happens is there's a response in grief to take revenge. And what he says is the wise elders will hold the grieving person and be right there with them, like, yeah, suck it to them, let's go get them, but they won't let them out the door. They won't let them actually take action on it, but they'll let them curse and swear and rant and rave and, talk about all the things they're going to do to the perpetrator of the person that stole the life from their loved one. They'll let them get that out until they're crying, until they're sobbing on the floor. And then they'll pick them up and they'll say, okay, now let's talk about what you miss about the person you love. Because revenge, again, is just a separation. It's a part of our separation from love. It's a necessary part so that we can see what we love. It's like all this revenge shows us what we care about. It shows us what matters to us. So yeah, we got to stoke the revenge fire a little bit, but let's not go too far with it so that it becomes the same poison that killed the thing we loved. Okay. Past. Again, this is that sensitive, empathic, emotionally taking it on. For those of you that have been doing this for a while, you might want to step away and let some of the newbies pick up the slack. And if you don't believe they're out there, trust me, they are. I hear about it a lot. 7 of Swords. So yeah, again, we've got to make room, make space for that energy, to channel that revenge energy. Let it express itself, but don't let it go too far to become the poison that it's trying to take out. Yeah. So overall, this is creating positive change, a catalyst. Oh, look at this. 8 of Swords with the 4 of Pentacles. So what you can notice is if you start feeling, You want to stay right on that edge between anger, a bit of a desire for revenge, but also like deeply moved and motivated, seeing the great cause, being really like emotionally open and connected to the cause, and it inspiring you, it inciting you not to create a riot, but to like create change in your life, to take responsibility for your life in a good way, and to share that with others around you. If it's pushing you down into the ground and making you feel like stuck, uninspired, afraid, shut down, alone, then it's time to step away and look for inspiration. Okay. Yeah. And wait for the next wave. Wait for the next wave. Don't drive yourself into the ground trying to be the solution, the one and only solution. It's like, this is like a relay. We need to spell each other off. There needs to be time off. Interestingly, going back to the beginning of my live where I was talking about taking this time off, and I feel like I've just getting going with a lot of the projects and things that I've been working on bringing forward literally for months, if not years. And then it's like, well, this is my chance. If I'm going to do this, if I'm going to take some time to replenish myself before my next big, relay portion of the race, I need to look after myself in that way. And it's sometimes hard just to step away, but we've got to do it. We've got to do it. Will the transition take years, or is it imminent, around the corner, months away? Some of us are so burnt out. Yeah. All the series, as you called it, to unfold. Thank you for your Q&A. You're very welcome, Chris. And gosh, I want to end off in a really good way. And this is going to be the last question. I want to find a way to bring empowered courage to the answer to this question, Chris. Yeah. And the burnt out and the tired, and that's what I was just talking about, right? There's something which I can put down below after this goes onto the channel. Timeline predictions. I did some really powerful divination around this a few months ago. It actually came through a reading with one of my clients. And then I also have gathered some more data around that since then. And one of the things that I think is so valid and valuable and helpful for me around all of this is the cycles within cycles within cycles within cycles. So if you see yourself as being like, oh, this is just like, there's no light at the end of these tunnels, I'm exhausted and I give up, there's in a way, there's a need to kind of zoom out and see where we are in these different cycles. And it just so happens in that nesting dolls syndrome that we happen to be in like some pretty powerful turning points of many of those cycles simultaneously. So that's part of why this feels just so daunting and huge, is because it's not just one cycle. In most of our recorded history, there's been a cycle. Like when things change, it's a cycle of a civilization rising and falling, which happens every 240 years. So it takes 240 years for a civilization to rise and fall. It takes 70 years for economies to rise and fall. It takes, I don't remember the amount for the war cycle, but all of these sort of human system society cycles, they are predictable. They're predictable. Then you have the larger cycles, like the precession of the equinox that happens every 2,100 years. There's, then there's larger universe, galactic cycles that we go through. So we're going through, and then there's the global epochs, and then there's the Kali Yuga cycle. So we're going through we just so happen to be going through several of those demarcation cycle transition points all at once right now. So if you can get into that kind of groove and go, again, this is not something, it's sort of like trying to solve the most complex puzzle imaginable in 5 easy steps. It's like it is bigger than even the challenges and the perspectives that we are aware of right now. So there is going to need to be a different kind of trust and a different kind of relationship to destiny, divine guidance, human evolution unfolding, and literally falling in love with the process as we can move into, I love this process. I'm not mad about it anymore. I don't feel alone in it. I don't feel abandoned by it. And it's not triggering my anxiety. So, all that said, holy yes, I hear you, Chris. You know, it's like the two sides of Ashala speaking. That's the, that's the intuitive healer visionary side saying, oh yeah, I see all these cycles within cycles and cycles. And can't you see it? And doesn't it make sense? And doesn't that make you feel better? And then I go back to my drawing board and I'm like, I'm freaking out. So I'm right with you. Time that it will take. I want to tell you my honest perspectives, but I also want to empower you to see, wow, oh goodness. Wow. Wow. I'm wowing because let me show you the cards. Here's us, the Chariot. Here's us. We've got the blinders on, like the Chariot. You see the armor? This character is all armored up. He's got like a suit of armor on, and he's in a way, he's got the blinders. He's got the covering over top of the Chariot. He's actually protected in the Chariot. So he's all sort of, it's sort of like the horse with the blinders on. We're just like, get me through this. Where's the other side? I got to get there. But the answer is we're already there. It's happened. So I know you can say, yeah, but what about this? We don't see this. Why is that still happening? Blah, 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 right? And it's like, okay, what are you noticing? What are you noticing that's different? How are you seeing the transformation in yourself, in the people around you, in your experiences? Like, look for the evidence that it's shifting. And I have to say, it's still a propaganda war. Truther channels, all the media sources, every one of us, our own intel, our own guidance, our own algorithms, we are still being fed propaganda. So, it's not intentional as much as it used to be, but there's still this need for discernment. And if you can actually really tune into that place, you're going to start noticing that it's shifting. Here's an example. When my daughter and I moved here, we were like, okay, we know there's an awake community here in the region that we are living in, this new area that we live in. But we went to some of these meetings and so on. And it's like, okay, well, it's a pretty small group for this whole region. But then lo and behold, as we've been out in the community, just totally randomly meeting people in all different places, like everything from the mechanic to the, somebody that we are doing business with or something, right? It's like, the yoga teacher at the class, the this, the that, this, the that. And literally, I think we counted probably over a dozen people. We've met probably maybe, I don't know, 13, 14 people that have become part of our lives now, either people that we do business with or whatever, outside of the group of awake people. And do you know, there's only been 2 of those people out of all those people that we met randomly that aren't awake. So how is that even like, we're like, okay, something's happening here. Either we are in the energetic algorithm where we're only attracting those people, or there's a lot more of us than what we're being led to believe. And fascinating to hear people's perspectives, to hear how people are navigating. So many varieties of different ways of navigating. Look at this, the navigation, communication, navigation. So much more safety to open up and talk, to have conversations. I'm hearing nonstop stories about people saying, falling out with their families, falling out with their neighbors, falling out with their friend circle. Repair is happening. And, we can say, well, they're still not awake. They still don't blah, blah, blah. But, we didn't start out awake either. And the fact that they're open as they are, it's happening. It's already here. It's already here. So you can go back and fight the old battle, or you can look ahead and see what's actually happening is real. And that means that you're not listening to all the stories that are on the internet. I'm not saying they're all false. I'm not saying they're all true. I'm just saying the proof is in your life experience. Who do you meet out on the street? What kind of conversations are you having with people that you had falling out with? What kind of new experiences are you having in your personal relationship dynamics? What kind of personal trauma healing are you experiencing? How are you showing up for yourself differently? How are you acknowledging the successes that you've had in the last 3 or 4 years? What you've grown through? I mean, it's just like we all want to get up and cheer for each other. Like, oh my Lord, if we could go back and look at ourselves 3 years ago, I mean, occasionally I'll have that thought and I can hardly even imagine it now. So please feel bolstered. Please feel that we are already, it is over. It is over. And look for the evidence of it and start sharing that. That's the final word. Look for the evidence of how it's over and start sharing that. Because I think we're about to see that aspect of critical mass, okay? There's a critical mass that each of us is going to have in our own life experience. And once we get to that point, it doesn't impact us nearly as much what goes on out there. Again, you're going to focus on your life experience, your transformation. You're not here to fix the whole world. And it's much more interestingly complex than what we can perceive right now. Yeah. Chris, thanks for that. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Valerie, the more I stay focused with the positive, the more positive people are coming to me, and those who are stuck seem sad and less angry. Yeah, so, and as we know, right, also there's that, like, the delayed reactions of it's going to take the longest time for things to show up in that far outer reach of the mainstream reality in terms of the mainstream media, the mainstream politic, the mainstream, like we see cracks in it, but the total transformation of that's going to be the last thing that changes because it's the strong, it's the holdout stronghold of that old reality. But as I said, we are disconnecting from that. We are removing ourselves intentionally from that. We are moving ourselves intentionally step by step from that. So it becomes redundant and irrelevant eventually. And that's where it really starts to fizzle, right? But there is no reason to anticipate that you're going to have to go through a lot of trauma and crises in the future. There is the possibility, as you stay in your own lane, to create more and more of the frequency that illustrates to you how much the old movie or show is over, how the series is helping us transition, and the time just becomes less and less significant because we're already here. We're already here. Blessings to you all. We've gone over. It's 12:22. Speaking of time, I wish you all the best. I will miss seeing you over this month, but I really invite all of you to care for yourself in good ways this month, to join me for my 100th celebration of my 100th Soul Sampler, which is coming up here on July 23rd, Sunday, July 23rd. Please join me there. And there'll be a prize draw for free readings with me, and an invitation to come over and join me on Rumble. So I look forward to seeing you all there. Have a beautiful rest of your summer if you're in your northern hemisphere, and your winter if you're in the south. And I look forward to seeing you again here in August. We'll be reconvening on the 23rd of August. Blessings to you all. Bye for now.